Okay. Alright, it looks good. We are going to start streaming. And boom. Alright. Well, we should be live now. So, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another Water Change Wednesday that we typically do every other Wednesday here on this channel. I'm just logging in to make sure that the thing is working properly because, you know, you never know. YouTube has sometimes problems. So, just wanted to, you know, come on here. We'll answer some Plant a Tank questions. If you're here live, that's awesome. I do apologize I wasn't able to schedule this in advance because I had a little bit of a family emergency. Happened this morning, or late last night. So I didn't get to go to work today, and I didn't really have access to a computer to schedule it in advance. So, yeah. So we should be here. I'm just checking to make sure we are live. Yep, we are live. We got a couple people in here now. We're gonna wait for people to get in here to go through. But let's pop out the chat here. Pop out. Boom. There we go. All right. So yeah, to the people we have watching, where y'all from? If you're joining us on Instagram, you can head on over to YouTube and find us on there. And yeah. So, I do apologize in advance if my mood is a little not as it normally is. Like I said, we had some family emergency this morning, so yeah, stuff happened. But with that said, there's not much I can do with the current situation right now, so that's why we're over here live streaming. Doing that. So what's up, Adam Aquatics? What is your favorite plant? I mean, I have so many, but if I had to choose like a favorite species, I'd probably choose a Anubis nana. Well, just Anubis in general. Anubis is a great plant. What's up, Puff from Korea? What's going on Instagram? What's up, ZX Billy? It says, hi, your videos are excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I've been trying to put more and more work into them. So, yeah. Lurking in Toledo, Ohio. What's going on? England, UK here. What's going on? Yeah, Adam, it's never a good thing to hear, but, I mean, sometimes you can't really, sometimes situations are out of control, and it is in the hands of professionals and the universe. So, not to be a Debbie Downer, but, you know, things happen, and you just try and deal with them as they come along. Life is all about not really, I mean, you can't really prepare for most things in life outside of a couple things, and mostly it's how you interact with the world and react to situations you're put into. So yeah. So Vic the Tow Guy has a question. What light are you using for those tanks behind you? Well, so the lights right here in these two tanks, these are the Asta 20 lights. If I can find it here real quick, I'll link them up for you. Why do you not pronounce the A in Anubis? I think I do, don't I? Anubis? Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, so now it looks like they have a Asta 20 light with a programmable LED, which, I mean, I just use a bulk timer that does all of it, so I don't really need that, but I will link to you, okay, here's the chat. I will link to you this. There is the Asta 20 light for these. The other one directly behind me in the shallow tank here is the Twin Star 600 series, which I don't think you can find that on Amazon, so you're just gonna have to Google. Google is your friend. Let's see. I'm gonna Amazon it for you. Nope, it does not have it. And then the one over here is the Kessel A80. Let's see if that is. I think it is A80. Yeah, A80. No, that's the H80. A80. And if you want to know more details about each tank, we've done separate videos on each one individually, so you can go through and, you know exactly what I did essentially. So feel free to give those a look-see. And there you go. There's the links for the Kessel and the Austolite. So guys, joining on Instagram, if you want to head on over to YouTube, you can join us at H2O Plants on YouTube. And yeah, so Harper, I'm just going to say Harper, what up? Glad to find a channel about aquarium plants. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. We're yeah, we're all about aquarium plants here. We may be branching into more terrarium plants and other sorts of plants in the future, so you know, we'll definitely expand your plant knowledge, and maybe I'll learn some things along the way, and you'll learn some things along the way. I do have to say I have 3 really good video ideas for planted tanks and components of planted tanks in general. It's just a really thought out video, so I think it's gonna bring a lot of scientific knowledge to the forefront of how aquariums work, how aquascaping works, and all that. But there's a lot involved with it, so it's one of those videos. I probably will be working on just one of them for the next like 3 months on and off, because it's not one of those things that I could just do and get done in like a day, because of how involved I want them to be. So we got a question on Instagram. Ant says, do you use CO2 in all your tanks? Most of them are. This one here doesn't have CO2. The paludarium directly behind me does not have CO2. And then there's another tank off to my right that does not have CO2 either. But that one I haven't shown yet. And then there's another tank over here I haven't shown yet. So you guys haven't seen 2 of them. Adam says he's... Oh, well, actually, I'm skipping. It's a part of life that it is. Brick is from Miami. What's going on? How's the heat going down there? Mitch is from Ohio. What's going on? Australia, Tara. You know, Australia, it's either Japan or Australia are like the 2 major countries that I want to visit. Mainly Australia for the Great Barrier Reef, because I think that's just amazing, and then Japan just for the culture. You know, those are my top 2 destinations. Like, if somebody was like, here is X amount of dollars, take a vacation, go anywhere you want, it would be a coin. It would literally be a coin flip between the 2. I'd just bet it all on a coin flip. Be like, all right, heads we go to Japan, tails we go to Australia, and whichever one it is, we go there. Adam from Madison, Wisconsin. Welcome. Romania. Hi, Erie. Oh, okay. We got people all over the world here. Best places to purchase the aqua cubes like yours is... Well, Nicholas, if you're in the United States, you can message me and I can get pretty much any one of these shipped to you, assuming that the manufacturer has them in stock. They're actually running low on a bit of the tanks at the moment, and this chair is wobbly, or the stool, but we'll make do with it. If you want similar tanks, you could go on Amazon and look up Fire Aqua and other ones. If you're outside of the United States, they should be available. Or ADA is another one. What's up, BN Cooley? What's going on? Best wishes for the family situation. Just recently began following and enjoying sharing education. Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you for the well wishes. And only time will tell. Right now, the situation is just completely out of my hands. Unfortunately, it's one of those things you can't really do anything, and that's one of the most difficult things. So, and you just have to keep your, positive vibes, and hopefully things work out for the best for everybody. What's the best way to fight green hair algae? Well, that's a really good question. More so, we're going to do a video on this, but a couple of different scenarios are, there's a couple of different forms of green hair algae, or at least it may be the same algae, just taking different kind of variations. But you have like a green slime algae, then you have like this really thready stuff, and then you have cladophora algae, which is, I guess it might all be cladophora. I've run into a couple different strands of it, so I don't know if it's all the same algae per se, or if it's like a couple different ones. But for the most part, with hair algae, especially the long flowy ones, what I would do is manual removal first. Get in there with a set of tweezers or a toothbrush and just really try and remove as much as you can by hand. Best to turn off your filter while you're doing this so it doesn't get sprayed all over the place. but try and remove as much as you can manually. And then what you should do is use hydrogen peroxide, or you could use Excel, although I prefer hydrogen peroxide to this method. And wherever there is signs of the algae around, say on the wood, on the rocks, on plants, you spray with the hydrogen peroxide. I typically use a little tiny pipette, I think it's like a 10mm pipette. Actually, I got one right here because, no surprise, we are treating some hair algae in some of these tanks currently. And that's actually, like I said, we're doing a video on it. This is like a 5mm pipette. So you stick it in the hydrogen peroxide, you get a bunch of it in there. You could also use a syringe. Syringes work too. And then you just kind of just spot treat. Use as little as possible. It's really hard to overdose hydrogen peroxide, but you can overdose it, so keep that in mind. So just enough to spray the infected areas. You could spray it on the plant leaves. Mosses, it may kill mosses if you spray directly on the moss, so keep that in mind. But most plants can handle it sprayed around their leaves as long as they're submerged. Now when you take them, if you were to drain the tank and spray it with hydrogen peroxide, you may have some leaf damage because hydrogen peroxide will attack the leaf cells and kill leaves, so you do risk having some plant damage. And then just do that every single day or every couple days for a couple weeks straight, and just treat as needed, and hopefully the hydrogen peroxide will take care of the algae. Now, that'll kill what's existing. It won't kill the cause of it, because the odds are you have a cause. So whether it's too much light, too much flow, maybe a nutrient imbalance, could be a newly set up tank, which often sees algae blooms like hair algae and everything else. So if you depending on your scenario, just treat accordingly and figure out what your situation is. A lot of times people don't have their lights on timers. Always put your light on a timer. That's like one of the golden rules of planted tanks. Oh, it should be tanks in general, but having to do with plants. Plants always on the timer. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, we got this tank in particular right here next to me. It does have some hair algae, which we're combating right now. This one did have a ton of algae in it when we first set it up. A bunch of brown slime algae. It went away. Literally, I did nothing to it. One of the tanks that you haven't seen yet had a ton of brown algae also. Essentially, I attribute that to new tank syndrome. And that's all gone away on its own. I just did a small water change and took care of it. So those are all general ideas. You could also dose Excel. You could get algae eaters. I typically try not to go the algae eater method if you don't have to, because when you introduce, say you get a Siamese algae eater, or Siamese, what is it? Yeah, Siamese algae eater is the name. Yeah, either that or the reticulated flying fox. Those do eat hair algae, but they do eat less and less as they get bigger and bigger. So you're introducing a fish that will grow anywhere between 3 and 8 inches, depending on which one it is. And that can throw off your stocking and whatnot. So typically I try not to resort to livestock to take care of the algae issue. I try to figure it out with green spot algae on the glasses and stuff like that. I like to use snails, Nerite snails. They're really good and easy to do. I actually stuck them in a couple of the tanks here just to help maintain the glass. I'm actually probably going to stick 1 or 2 in this tank just because the front glass is really dirty, and if I stuck a snail in there, I wouldn't have that problem. Like this one I haven't had to clean at all because of the snails. They just do an awesome job. Oh, I will say, whoever ordered, thank you very much. I did just see that pop up. And I will say one thing, a short little plug. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter that we have on the website, I suggest going over to our website, H2O Plants. Signing up for the newsletter because what we're going to start doing, or at least what I'm doing, is every week, and I'm not going to try and be spammy with it, but each week I'm going to send out a newsletter detailing a plant. Maybe one of the general ones this week was Java Fern, and we kind of went over general care, and I gave some examples of aquascaping. I'm gonna try and do it more in depth the more it evolves over time. But also there is a coupon code in there for Java Fern. So if you are signed up to our newsletter already, check your inbox, see if it's in there. It's a pretty decent code. I think it was 20% off Java Ferns. So that's a code. I'm not going to release it to the public just because it's solely for the newsletter people. So I do recommend that if you want, cool discounts, learn some things. There's going to be detailed information in there. We also kind of do catch-ups on our YouTube videos and whatnot. So So we have a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Of course, that's never needed, but always appreciated. And so Harper's question, or Harper's message here is: my aquarium plants look amazing, and it's been up for 1 year now. But my water wisteria old leaves look horrible. I dose on a schedule with Aquarium Co-op's Easy Green, Easy Iron, and it mostly has green spot algae. So. Easy solution, you could do a Nerite snail. The Nerite snail will eat that green spot algae. Or what you could do is on its older leaves, what I would do is I would trim right above where the algae is forming, so the fresh leaves. I would replant the tops and I would toss the bottoms. Or you could leave the bottoms, let them continue to grow out, and just remove the bottom leaves. When you remove the bottom leaves, it will actually branch out. It could cause branching. Or just pinch the top of the stem. So if the plant's growing vertically, take the very most top growth, just like a slight, like half an inch of growth off. That'll cause the plant to split there, but it'll also encourage the plant to branch out in other directions lower in the stem. So when you do that, you can grow new growth, and then that new growth wouldn't have algae on it. But Nerite snails is also another simple method, or autosynclus catfish. But Nerite snails are super underrated. Autos are a lot more, I would say they're a bit more difficult because you need several of them. You could get one Nerite snail and say like I would say one Nerite snail to like every 10 gallons of water, and you'd be completely fine. And that'll take care of your issues. So we'll get back to the questions here, but thank you again for the super chat. It's very much appreciated. Miguel says, easiest way to propagate bronze crypts. So crypts are one of those plants that you can't really propagate on your own. You're just going to kind of plant them and leave them be. That's the best tip to growing crypts, is plant them, don't touch them, let them do their thing, and they will reward you by sending out runners. Because a crypt or a rosette plant that, crypts are rosette, or they're kind of rhizomatous too. They're a mixed kind of bag. But typically with crypts is they send out runners underneath the soil and produce a baby plant, or they produce the baby plants right at their rhizomatous rosette. Because it's like crypts are kind of similar to Anubis, but not. So they have like weird genetics to them. But when you have a crypt and you just leave it and let it establish, it's going to produce a ton of baby plants. And then all you do is you go in with your scissors or tweezers and remove the baby plants from around the mother plant, or the runners, and snip the runner and then replant those somewhere else. If you're constantly uprooting the plant, you're actually disrupting it, and it's not going to produce babies as much. So it's best to just leave them be, feed them lots of fertilizers, make sure you're dosing your tank so it has everything available to it. Make sure it has a decent amount of light. Although crypts are very low light plants, so you just need to make sure it has something. And root tabs can help as well, depending on your substrate. And that's really it. Crypts are not one thing that you're going to propagate really quickly. It's going to take time and patience. It's one of the harder plants to do. But I will say every rare crypt I have, I don't even bother with it. I plant it and I leave it be. And I have tons of babies that are surrounding the plant. So I can eventually remove them. But I leave them there until they're, a decent size to really move around. I don't like to move baby plants. It can impact the growth or possibly kill the plant, the baby plant. So, your opinion on Kessel, Vic wants to know. So I will say this: Kessel did supply the light for this tank for free. I mentioned that in the video. So far, it is growing the plants in here. I will say I'm not a fan of the color or the vibrancy, I guess it is. Keep in mind when you look at your tank, the light is what is influencing the colors you see. So depending on the spectrums and everything in light, it's all about visibility, not only to us but the plants. I will say that I prefer the Asta visibility light to what I like looking at the tank wise. I feel it's brighter in my initial opinions. But as far as growing plants, it has been, these plants that have been in here about a week or so now have been growing. So I can't fault them there, gross plants. It's just not as bright as I would like to visually be able to see it. So that's my honest first takes on it. And I also feel that the price point is a bit high depending on the tank that you're trying to do. So if you have a really large tank, I don't think Kessel pendant lights are cost effective. If you have a smaller tank, like a cube, like one of these, absolutely great light for that size tank. But if you have, you know, a 4-foot tank and you need to get 2 or 3 of these guys to cover that space, and then depending on how long or how tall it is top to bottom, you could be looking at a pretty penny. And there are several fixture lights that are beam like I don't know what you call it, strip lights, I guess, that are more effective for the price, I feel. So honest opinions, like I said, they did give me the light for free, so I gotta, you know, appreciate that. But I do my honest opinions of things, and I told them that you're giving me the light for free, and I will give my honest opinion. So yeah. Erie says, I have some Valsenarian spiralis, or actually contortion val or corkscrew val, that just don't grow in a dirted tank. About 2 months old. Since I dirted it, they don't die either. Is it the light? So it's possible it's the light. Was the plant in there beforehand and growing, or is it a new plant and a new tank? Keep in mind, a lot like crypts, vals are the same way. When you plant a val, you need to just let it grow. And just leave it be. Don't move it around. I've done a whole video on this, you know, the biggest tip to aquariums, which you guys seem to love that video. Go back and watch that if you haven't. Just leave your plants be. Make sure they just have enough light and enough fertilization. It's hard to tell. You may kill a couple plants in the process, but the best thing you can do is just leave the plant be and let it do its thing. So as long as it hasn't died, it's fine. Like, it just may take a while to establish its root system. Because keep in mind, when you plant something new, even though it's been 2 months, if you just planted it 2 months ago, it may just not have enough light to really utilize its root system yet. So it's just taking some extra time. But as long as it hasn't died, it should be alright. Will one of those lights be strong enough for a 10-gallon high-tech tank? It depends on how high-tech you want to go. If you're trying to grow some really, really difficult stuff, I'd probably say no. If you're trying to grow like medium difficulty stuff, so some like limnophilia, some rotalas, stuff like that, I would say yes. But I don't see it growing some of the really more difficult stuff, like Ludwigia white is a super rare plant. I don't see it growing that. With that said, I haven't tried it, so I can't say for sure. It may impress me. I mean, it has impressed me so far, but I don't think it's that strong. Do autocats help with most algae? No, Ninja. Actually, autocats only help with really one type of algae or 2 types of algae, but it's really the same kind, like same variation of algae. Autosynclists primarily, because they have a sucker mouth, they only are able to suck on the algae that's on glass or on leaves that isn't hair algae. So if you have spot algae, like green spot algae or brown slime algae, they'll eat those. But once they're gone, if you have hair algae, blackbeard algae, staghorn algae, they're not going to touch them. So that's why I like nerite snails, because they do the same job, and they're a lot easier to come by. They're a lot easier to care for. Autos are great, but typically you want to keep them in a school of at least 6 or more. They do require additional feeding once all the algae is gone in the aquarium. You have to maintain their feeding. Snails, because they actually do eat dying plant matter, will actually help clean up your plants also. So they're really beneficial snail. I mean, nerite snails do that. Pond snails do that too. Like, there's pond snails in every one of these tanks. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. But yeah. Best plants for pea puffers. Really anything, Brick. Pea puffers are not selective, so you can do anything. I also have a question about a tank. Oh, let's see. Where is that question? My apologies. It skipped on me. Okay. I also have a question about the tank behind you. This is coming from Billy. Is the Twin Star S okay for a low depth tank? It's a powerful light. I'm trying to decide between the Twin Star S or E. So this is the Twin Star S, and I do have to say it is a very powerful light, and you will get algae in the beginning. Right now I am dealing with small amounts of algae here or there, but it is growing the plants rather effectively, and it is on full blast. And this is only, say this is about a 12, no, probably 8-inch tall tank. I forgot the exact dimensions, but it's not that tall of a tank. Yeah, this is a 12. That's probably 8 inches or so. So it's a super bright light, but it's growing plants fantastically. Now, if I had maybe less plants in here, would it be causing algae? I really can't say at the moment. And then the other tank that hasn't been shown yet also has a twin star that is that I initially got algae and I don't currently. But it's hard to really say. I do think the S series is the better way to go, but it's really up to you. So, pea puffers, yeah. I'd love. I really want to put fish in all these aquariums or livestock, but because we're using these as show tanks and transporting them to conventions, it's just really difficult to do that because if I put a colony of shrimp in one of these and they reproduce and I have hundreds of shrimp, when I have to drain the tank all the way down to be able to move these things because I can't fill them up, or I can't move them filled with water, and trying to catch all those shrimp, it's just going to be a nightmare. And same thing with fish. Like, I could do a beta, but then I got to put lids on the tanks. And I like how it's just so open. It's just more of a zen thing. Like, I don't have to worry about feeding things in these tanks. Like, it's, just making sure the plants are doing well, making sure the scape is doing well, keeping algae down. Just a little bit easier on my schedule and whatnot to just be like, okay, there's nothing alive in here except for a couple snails, which are fine. And I just have to, clean the glass, clean the plants, and whatever. It's just a little bit easier not having to worry about livestock. So as much as I really want to put livestock in all these things, I don't know if it's a long-term possibility. So we'll have to see. But pea puffers was something that I was originally thinking about. What have I decided to add to the desert tank? Kind of the same thing right now. We're just running with the snails. I really don't know. It kind of sucks because the conventions, I need to bring some of these tanks, but I don't need to bring all of them. But it's one of those is I don't think I could commit to being like, okay, just these 3 are gonna stay here, and I'm gonna take the other 3 to the conventions. I think that I may switch it up every year because I don't have any intentions of not going to next year's conventions either that are in the area. Or even possibly bringing these, like I have a speaking arrangement in the Brooklyn Aquarium Society in September, and I was actually considering loading one of these up because they're so portable that I could load one of these up into the back of my truck and set it up at the aquarium meet, and people can actually see it in person, ask questions, I can demonstrate things, and it just makes it, just that much cooler being able to bring it easily, like these cube ones. A couple of the bigger ones, obviously the Paludarium one isn't that mobile. It is capable of being brought to the conventions. It's just going to require a bit more work. But like this tank, I could literally just drain the tank down, wrap it up in plastic, and take it with me on the go. So it's really super good for that. The desert tank, not so much. That one is a bit more of a process. But the first one that I debuted, the Nano Beginner Aquascape, is it's pretty good. So as far as what I'm adding to the desert tank, I don't know yet. I'm conflicted on what I'm going to do as far as livestock, if I'm going to do anything. It's just so difficult. I was thinking about doing like solitary fish, but then they'll run around the tank and getting them out. It's just a pain. It's just a pain. Let's see. Do you think 2.0 is enough for a 24-inch deep, heavily planted tank? As long as it's medium to low light plants, yes. If you're trying to grow really high light, high tech plants, probably not. What do you think about liquid CO2? I don't use it as a CO2 substitute. I use it as an algae control when I need to by kind of direct dosing the trouble areas like I mentioned with hydrogen peroxide, and that's like the nuclear option. That's like, if you really have done it, day after day trying to remove the algae and there's no end in sight, that's when I start using Excel to really cut down on the algae. Could you show us your low-tech aquariums? Well, I have shown you guys my low-tech aquariums. If you go back, and I'll actually bring up the videos for you, so hold on 1 second. If you go back, I did a video on the Nano Beginner Aquascape, which is essentially low-tech. It does have CO2, but I could easily remove CO2 and the tank would be completely fine. I'm using CO2 so it grows in faster, but it is fully capable of running without CO2. And we'll eventually do an update on this video as well. So I'm linking the first video on the subject, but it will we'll have an update soon on the tank, and I'm gonna do another video on it. Here, rolling. Oh no, that's not the right chat. There we go. Okay, so there's the Nano Aquascape, and then if we go back here, the Moss Ball Aquarium also is low tech, which I'll get you right now. And I love seeing that you guys are helping each other out. I haven't made it that far in the chat, but I have 2 chat windows open, so I could see the current chats and I could see the chats that I'm up to. That's so cool. I like that there's a community there. So the other link that I just linked is the Moss Ball Aquarium, and then also the Paludarium behind me setup, which I just did this past Sunday, is all low tech. So, all right, 100% humidity. Yeah, it's quite humid in here and downstairs, but good thing our AC system sucks out the humidity. Get to the reef, it's amazing. My family and I spent 2 weeks on the Huron Island, I think is it. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I know I really want to, especially, if I know it's dying off. I know, tons of it's gone. I really want to see it in my lifetime. Before that happens, maybe maybe in the next 5 years, hopefully it's still there, and I'll make a trip out there. It's like one of the really the only things that I want to do is go see the Great Barrier Reef. Gen G, what's going on? How's it going? Barry says, what background plants, low tech, do you recommend for a 10-gallon tank? So you can get taller crypts like Crypt spiralis or Crypt costata. Those are taller crypts. You could also do Crypt balancea, Crypt retrospiralis. Those are nice tall crypts. You could also do giant hairgrass, the Vivipara one, which is one of my favorites. It's also one that we used in the shrimp tank downstairs, the blue bolts. If you look up on our channel, $700 shrimp, that would be that video, which we have to do an update on because that tank is grown in phenomenally. What else for low-tech background plants? You could do Java ferns. We can special order larger Java ferns, but actually our normal Java ferns should be fine for a 10-gallon tank. Then you could do stem plants like bacopas, hygro willow, or hygro. Actually not hygro willow. That's a little too big. Hygro blue is a good one. I really recommend that one. I like that one a lot. So those are just a couple. Hey guys, love the new backsplash. Thank you, Alluring Betas, and awesome. This whole thing. So not only was these tanks built to be portable and taken to these conventions to demonstrate, but it's also to show you guys different aspects and show you different things, as well as also providing a backdrop to videos that even maybe when we're not doing a video on the specific tank, maybe we're talking about something else. It's a nice backdrop, I feel. And it's like all these more professional YouTubers have studios, and we have a set, and this is kind of my set design. We're still not done by any means. This wall is still an empty canvas here. There's a lot of things that I want to do with this wall behind me. There's many more things that I have to do in the windows here. They're not done yet. So there's just a lot to do with this space. So it's still ever evolving. Hello, Angelina Miller. What's going on? How are you? What water column plants and merino moss balls, or would water column plants and merino moss balls be enough for a beta tank? Yeah, James. Depending on the size, you could do water sprite and moss balls. Water sprite's a really good plant for anything, really. It's a super fast growing plant, hardy, easy to grow. But yeah, I mean, really any plants are fine for beta. Even just putting a little bit in there will go a long way, because when you have a beta that's just in like a small 2.5, 5 gallon container, assuming you have a filter on it and all that, the plants really just help to eliminate you really having to do many water changes. Like, honestly, we don't do water changes on these tanks here unless we absolutely need to. And same thing downstairs, like my 55 gallon that has a bunch of fish and shrimp in it, I haven't done a water change in months. The shrimp tank with the $700 blue bowl shrimp I haven't touched in months as well, and they're doing fantastic. There's actually going to be an update soon on that tank. So, yeah. Have you ever tried liquid carbon instead of hydrogen peroxide for algae control? Yes, we went over that. Billy, thank you for the question, though. What causes tough green spot algae on the glass and plants, and how do you prevent it from coming back? So my opinion, I don't know if this is the actual case, but I believe it's from too much light. And by too much light, either the light's on for too long, it's too close to the tank, meaning you have to raise it up, or you should dim it. Those could be any number of cases. Typically, I don't worry about that. It doesn't bother me too much. If it grows on the plant leaves, like I said, narite snails, regular snails, they're great for that. Toothbrush, you could brush them off with a toothbrush. That's how I would do it. But typically, it's lighting. What's up, Junwan Lee? How's it going? Do you like the video? Thank you, Luring Betas. How many tanks do I have, Adam asks? Well, more than I can count, but I have 6 here. I have 1 upstairs. I have 1 in the living room, so that's 8. I have 8 more, so that's 16. I got 4 more, so that's 20. 55, that's 21. The 275s, that's 23. I got Lucky's tank, which is 24. The 2 tanks on my desk, that's 26, plus another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. So that's 36 tanks in total we have between downstairs and upstairs, I believe. Oh, and the carnivorous pond, 37, if you want to count that as a tank. Do you / would you keep any betas? I actually do have a beta. I haven't shown it on camera yet, but spoiler, we have a beta. I'm getting a 40-gallon breeder planted live tank for my goldfish on Friday, which is my birthday, July 27th. Well, happy early birthday to you, Fish Lifestyle. By the way, if you sign up on our website for our rewards program and you plug in your birthday, you should get like I think it's $5 or $10. You may get $10 store credit, or $10 in points that you could redeem for $10 store credit. So. Plant is, or my drink is dripping. Okay, we got about 20 minutes left here on the live stream. Let's see what else we got. Fish Lifestyle says I'm getting, or no, I already read that. Dennis says, will plants grow in fluorite only with no birds? So this is a discussion for a whole nother video. So if you have fish in your tank and you're feeding the fish, you can grow plants without fertilizing. Now, are they going to be the best coloration of the plants that they can be? Maybe. Are they going to grow as quick as they can? Maybe. Are they going to show deficiencies? Maybe. Fluorite is a substrate that typically will have some sort of nutrient value. However, that nutrient value does get exhausted after a certain amount of time. That could be anywhere between a month to a year. It really depends on the plant load, how many plants you have in there, how often you're doing water changes, what's in your water when you do water changes. Because keep in mind there are some trace minerals inside your water, such as calcium, magnesium, usually not nitrogen, because I think that's like, I don't know, I think there's regulations against that. Fluoride, stuff like that. So there's stuff in the water typically, unless you're using straight RO or you're on well or something. But even well, I think, has minerals that leach into it. So anyway, will you grow plants? Yes. Will they be the healthiest? Maybe. It's always good to dose, but keep in mind it's all subject to what kind of tank setup you have, what kind of plants, all that. If you do super basic stuff like Anubis, you could probably get away with not dosing. If you do some really high-tech stems and stuff like that, you might want to dose, because the quicker a plant grows, the faster it's absorbing all the available nutrients. And there's a long list of nutrients that plants need, everything from nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, to iron, copper, zinc, mabolium, I think is how you say it, magnesium, manganese, all these different elements that are in your water to some degree, but then will get extracted through plants, natural processes, and then your water may be barren of those things. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you could totally try it and see what happens. And if your plants start to look a little funky after a couple months, maybe time to pick up some fertilizer. I'll plug mine. We do sell it all in one. Pretty easy stuff. But if you don't want to do that, and I actually don't think I have a bottle, you could pick up any of your local fish stores available fertilizers. They'll all work to some degree. So yeah. Will Christmas moss spread all over decorations, or are they just gonna grow up? It depends on the lighting. If you have a really strong light, typically moss will grow out sideways. If you have a really low light, moss will typically grow upwards, reaching for the light. So with that said, what you could do is, well, if the tank's already set up, then you can't really do this. But if you're newly setting up the tank, you could try dry start method. And we've done a video on the easiest dry start method. If you just YouTube that, easiest dry start method, you'll find it. But you can make a moss slurry, and what you do is you take whatever Christmas moss say you have, you blend it up, and I think people use yogurt, actually. I'm trying to think, was it yogurt? Yeah, look up moss slurry, yeah. And you'll find it. And basically, you blend up the moss, so it's little tiny fragments. And then you either like sprinkle it on, or you like paint it on with a paintbrush. And then you do a dry start method and just let the moss attach and grow out over time. And then you would have fully filled in moss wherever you wanted it. So. Harper says, thank you very much. I have 6 Narite snails. Just want to make sure I was headed in the right direction. Yeah, Narite snails, one of the best algae eaters I could recommend. I'm actually going to do a video on all the different algae eaters that I use or that I have. And definitely Narite snails is probably my #1. So if I had to choose one, it would be Narite snails. Because hair algae, well, there's things that eat it. Typically don't eat it fast enough when there's a real big problem. And then you're kind of like, okay, well now I just bought 8 Amano shrimp, but now I have to have 8 Amano shrimp in my tank, and maybe I don't want 8 Amano shrimp. So, let's see. Christmas moss works well in low light. Yeah, I mean, most mosses work in low light. It just depends on how their growth pattern is. If they don't have enough light, they're definitely going to be reaching upwards more so than laying straight or sideways. BSA says, I bought it Asta 20 after 1 day and it died. Well, there you go. So somebody does have a complaint about it. I will say I have 3 of them currently and I've had 0 issues. And they've been running for about 2 months. So, everybody has different experiences with them. But I will, mention that because, I mean, that may influence your opinion on it, Mine seemed to be working fine. His died after a day. So I will say, BSA, if you didn't, maybe reach out to them. Maybe they'll replace it. I don't know. I haven't spoken to their customer service, but maybe they do have customer service or good customer service, and they'll be like, "Yeah, hey, your light broke after a day. We'll definitely replace it." So, what light do you recommend for a 20-gallon long? I like the night cruise ones. I just got one downstairs, and that one's a pretty good strip light for a small tank. I think was it more expensive? I don't know. If it's a long tank, definitely go with a strip light, but for like cube tanks, the pendant lights are good. Sometimes you just get a bad light, Adrian says. Yep, it's possible. Hey, I mean, I don't think I've really had any... Actually, no. Actually, recently, I had an SD card that I ordered, a SanDisk SD card, one of the micro SD cards, 128 gigabytes for the camera, because I wanted to be able to have 2 so I could film and then have a backup so I don't have to like go through and delete stuff immediately. And it literally did not work out of the box. It was completely corrupted, and I didn't even bother to reach out. I was like, it's not even worth it. I'll just order another one, which I have to do. That reminds me. But yeah, I literally had a bad SD card. Meanwhile, I bought another one previously, had no problems with it. So sometimes you just get something that doesn't work. It happens. It's the way of life. Do goldfish potentially do well with Amazon swords? Yes. So most swords that have bigger leaves will do completely fine with goldfish. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is the goldfish are going to be digging at the substrate, so much so that they may dig up all of the substrate around the plant, and the plant may then float up and whatnot. What you could do to combat this is either layer stones around it, bigger stones than the goldfish can pick up and move with their mouth, or put them in a pot of some sort, like a clay pot, and fill it with media, and then top it with, same thing, rocks or whatnot, or tie them to rocks, or wedge them in driftwood, and then that would ensure that they can't move around. So, let's see. We got a bunch of questions coming in on Instagram, guys. I'm on YouTube streaming, so if you are watching there, head on over. We got about 15 minutes left here. The Kessel light we have in the UK, you can change color, spectrum, and intensity. They are versatile. Well, this one does change color, intensity, and spectrum. It's just still not as bright as I wanted to. When you have these side by side with these Ostalites, visually the Ostalite is brighter. Don't know why. Can't explain it. I'm not a light guy. I really don't know. But visually it's brighter to me. And not only me, several other people. But like I said, they're both growing plants, so I can't fault it. How are you liking the Twin Star lights? I would love to get one, but it's so expensive. They are super expensive. They're really nice lights. I have to give them credit for that. I equate it to like buying the Bentley of the aquarium light world. Super polished, well-looking light. We did drop one in one of the tanks, and it's still working, surprisingly, even though they're not waterproof. So I'm not saying that they're waterproof, but we did drop it in there for like half a second, pulled it out, it was fine. Yeah, they're just super nice lights. I mean, they're super sleek design. They're good. They're expensive as hell. Let's put it this way. If I was setting up this fish room and had no... hold on, let me retract. If I was setting up one tank, and it was one tank that I was doing in my house, so it was going to be my show tank, I don't have MTS, multi-tank syndrome, and this is the tank I just wanted to look as good as they possibly can, I'd probably spend the money and get one. If I had a fish room downstairs, in the basement, and just doing a couple of tanks that I just want to practice in and whatever, and I'm not worried about it really looking that well, I probably wouldn't buy one. And because this is obviously a business, these are tax deductible because they are equipment to do things. I have that benefit, so I did pay for it. It gets wrote off at the end of the year, so I pay for it, but it comes off whatever we make. So it works out for me. Super expensive, yeah. Even at a wholesale level, they were still expensive. So yeah. Fluval 2.0 or 3.0 is also good. Yeah, those are also equally good lights. I use all Fluval 2.0s down in the grow tanks. So every plant that we essentially sell is grown under those. And that's because those are, I think, probably the most widely available light and one of the better rated ones for the availability. Let's see. All the goldfish I have eat my plants. Well, Adam, maybe you need to try other plants. I have 2 goldfish downstairs. They don't bother most of the plants. They do bother some, but not all. Oh, God, we have a ton of questions. All right, guys, I'm trying to get through this. You guys are having a huge conversation. If you do have a direct question for me, I know it's like we have 10 minutes left here. If you do have a direct question for me, tag me in the text, like at H2O Plants, so that way it pops up orange for me and I can see that. So let's see. Twin Star is very good, but I prefer Aqua Sky. I haven't tried them, so I can't comment on that. Hey, what kind of advice do you have for Dwarf's Edge? Plant it and leave it be. It will go probably through a melting phase, and the best thing you can do is just leave it. From your experience, Justin, what's the best light you've had that was at a reasonable price? For the best bang for the buck right now are definitely the Asta 20s. Like, if I was going to set up anything and just like a small little cube tank, I didn't want to spend a lot of money, I want to be very budget friendly, Asta 20 all day long. No complaints about it. Because obviously if you're doing a very budget friendly tank, you're not buying super crazy expensive difficult plants, you're not getting a CO2 system, you just want to get something that's going to grow some nice looking plants. Asta 20 all day long. It's grown boost grade, it's grown some moss, it's grown Anubis, it's growing 4-leaf clover, it's growing moss balls, Monte Carlo, a couple stems, and it's growing some pond plants in the other tank that I have it in. So it's growing great. That's what I would do. I had algae problems till I put cherry shrimp in, completely clean the tank. Yeah, cherry shrimp are good too, but it really depends on the type of algae. So they don't eat most hair algae. Erie says, I never saw a discussion on what is too much light for a tank. What are your thoughts on this? Can too much light harm the fish? The little guys have no eyelids. I think, too bright of light, sure, it could definitely be too bright for them. The thing I would probably worry about more is if they have cover, because here's the thing, right? If you have a planted tank with a ton of light on it, odds are you have a ton of plants. The fish are smart enough that they're gonna move somewhere where there's shadows, so they're not blinded. So that's the whole thing. However, make sure your light is on a timer. Definitely don't keep it on all day long. That would be too much light. So 6 hours is what I run everything at pretty much. Actually, no, downstairs. Is downstairs 8 hours now? These are all 6 hours. Downstairs is 8 hours, I think. So I can't add shrimp because I got angels. You could maybe add a mono shrimp if they're big enough. I got some fat monos from my local fish store that were like 2 inches almost. They're pretty big. What do you think of the Twin Star Nano or the Chihiros? I haven't tried them, so I don't have an opinion yet. I do like the way Chihiros look also, but I honestly wanted to supply them, but their threshold for a wholesale order is so damn much. And I would order so much of this product that I don't think it would move right away. So I'd be sitting there with thousands of dollars worth of product that I'd maybe sell $50 to $100 a week of, maybe. So just it's not a wise investment for me right now. We could turn over plants rather quickly. Dry goods, not so much. I realized this when we started clearing other things. And sorry, I lost my slipper, my Batman slipper. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to try and power through these questions here and try and get to everybody. Of course, if I did not answer your question, I apologize, but you can shoot me a message either on Facebook, Instagram, or through email. Keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, we're going through a little bit of a family emergency at the moment, so delayed responses maybe more than usual. This next week or so, maybe longer, because it may be a drawn-out process, but Jake's on it, as well as I'm probably going to stick Amanda on it as well. So we'll be able to answer questions the best we can. So, let's go through these questions real quick here. I'm probably not going to give the most detailed and elaborate answers, but Adrian says, does injecting CO2 lower pH and any other water parameters? It does lower pH. When you lower pH, different things can get absorbed at different rates, and yeah, there's chemistry that happens there. That's a whole nother video on it, but yes, it does lower pH. Adam says, ever try using a coral breeding tank to grow out smaller plants? Thinking about setting one up just for that. It's an excellent idea. I would. It's just you don't have I don't have a large footprint to work with, so I have to think both vertically and horizontally the amount of space that I have. But if I had a giant warehouse space, I would do frag tanks all day long. Mango beer is weird. I've never had it. Nor am I really a beer drinker. I'm more of a cocktail guy. But I really don't drink that much anyway, and maybe have 3 drinks a year, if that. That's the problem with cherry shrimp. Now I've got them, I'm very limited to what fish I can have with them. Yeah, that's the thing. You always have to think about long-term results of what you're doing. So when you add in fish, shrimp, or even plants, because some fish, I realized in early days, Bosemani rainbows eat glossostigma. They find it very tasty. So I learned you can't have a glosso carpet with Bosemani rainbows. They're going to eat it. So, or at least my Bosemanis that I had. Could be different. If I'm seeing spider web stringing that isn't green, is it still hair algae? Most likely, yes. There's different colors of hair algae. They can be grayish. I have some grayish looking algae in here. They're a very faint green, but they're more gray than green, I'd say. There's staghorn algae, which is black or gray, black beard algae, and green algae. So yeah, I only have shrimp and auto. They live in harmony. Yeah, that's great. Hey guys, what's up, Aqua Freedom? Oh, my nose is itchy. Why is my nose itchy? I've just got Cory Cats at the moment with my cherries. Quite a boring tank. Listen, spruce it up, get some nice cool plants in there, and you'll start enjoying it more. I mean, that's like I said, there's no livestock in any of these tanks, and these are my favorite tanks. Outside of, okay, I lied. The shrimp tank and the multi-tank, the shell dwelling tank, are my two favorite tanks downstairs. And then these are like my favorite other tanks. They're like just, I love looking at them. There doesn't need to be anything in them for me. It's all about the plants. I'm just a plant guy. That's what it is. I realize like I'm not a big fish guy. Like I like the fish aspect. I like the shrimp, but my tanks are primarily plants. They're not devoted to the livestock so much. I still have that one I'm referring to it as Dragon's Nest tank, but it's that giant dragonstone tank downstairs that has no fish in it still, and it's completely grown out and looking amazing. Gotta do a video on that. Dropping down your pH will prevent algae? Not necessarily. Some algae can tolerate lower pHs, but it really depends. Kind of explains why my snails keep dying. Thanks, Adam. I don't know what that's in reference to. Maybe the lowering of the pH. How are your shell dwellers doing, or do you still have them? The shell dwellers are doing great. We'll definitely do an update on them. I'm planning on it. Maybe within the next month there will probably be an update video on them. As you notice, we've only went to one video a week. That's just because with Nova getting a little bit bigger, you know, I'm trying to help out more with that, and also I want to spend more time with her, so I kind of eliminated that second video a week, and I feel like if I could just make one really good video a week, that should be a decent amount of content. And if you guys want additional content, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, because there I post daily. Like, you get daily stuff. So if you don't follow me on either one of those and you want daily stuff, you get it there. In your experience, how tall can Limno Aromatica Mini get? I've had it get, I'd say 12 inches so far. I've never had it above that, but I'm sure it could reach that. Does all driftwood raise nitrates? Yes. Because the organic material breaks down into ammonia, which will then be processed into nitrate and then to nitrogen. So yes, can raise nitrate levels. Don't Corey eat a shrimp leg now and then? They are vegetarian, or they are not vegetarian fish. Yeah, that's very possible. If you ever seen really newly hatched shrimp, they are super tiny. They will fit in almost anything's mouth. So, and I can say that because the blue bolts have had a ton of babies, and I see just the tiniest little shrimp. I'm like, yeah, no. If I had even like a sliced pearl danio, you'd get eaten. Tank has been set up for 2 months. Now I have brown algae. Should I leave it and let it run its course? I would leave it until it becomes overbearing. Like if it starts destroying things, like overtaking plants, that's when I would definitely start reacting to it. But if it's just like little bits here and there, I would leave it be. All right, we are at our hour mark. I'm going to try and truck through the rest of these questions here as much as possible. Snails also die, Snails also die a lot because they reproduce too fast and run out of food. They then die off, except for a few, and just stay in this cycle. If they all die off, it's probably not a good issue. Yeah, it's a possibility. Quarries are fine with them. Alright, gonna trick through that. Justin, what is the height on your stands? I'm planning on building one, and I don't know what height I want them at. I have an 18-inch tall tank. I will go on it. Any input would be great. So here's some suggestions on building a DIY stand. These are at, I want to say 36 inches or 30 inches because I wanted them at countertop height. But then again, these are super short tanks. I think the tallest one is the Cube at 16 inches tall. Some of the stands and the racks downstairs are super tall where we actually have to either stand on our tippy toes and reach in or get a step stool. So I would say build your stands at a height where you're able to touch the back side of the tank without standing on anything or standing on your tippy toes. Because if you want to be able to maintain the tank properly and easily and not make it a chore to do, then that would be my best suggestion. So it really goes off the height of your tank. And or where it's going. Like if it's going in your living room, I would say you want it at eye level when you're sitting down. If it's going in a room that doesn't have furniture to sit down in, like this is the only thing. It's a stool here. So this is meant to be seen at when you're walking in here. So if I made it lower, it would have been a little bit more difficult to really get the full picture. And if I made it any higher, it would have just been difficult to maintain. So, actually, it may not be 36. It may be 30. Because now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I don't know. 30 to 36 probably. Okay, we got a ton more to get through. Question: I have a 210, 220. I have Jungle Bell, Amazon Swords, Fish Stocking as Angels, Neons, some Corridors. Should I put CO2 on? Would it recommend, or should I just let it grow? Just let it grow. Don't bother with CO2. Honest opinions, I don't like using CO2 unless I absolutely have to. You can make beautiful tanks without CO2. CO2 is not needed. If you want to grow super difficult plants, sure. If you want to get plants to grow really quickly, sure. If you want to do it just because you want to do it, sure. But you don't need CO2 to have a beautiful tank. It just doesn't. I mean, this Paludarium came out beautiful, has no CO2. And, I mean, the light, although it's a decent light, like, it's not a really super powerful light. Like, I would say mid-range. So, it just goes to show you really don't need CO2 or a super, super powerful light to get a beautiful tank, assuming that you pick the right plants. So, let's see. Amazon Swords are heavy root feeders. Just remember that. Yep, that's true. I want to do a Paludarium, and I want the plants to go all the way up the wall. What could I do that would hold plants and be cost effective and not permanent? To the wall, I would say build maybe a trellis or a living wall type wall. That's actually something that I was debating on doing for this wall right here, is building a living wall. So I may show you that, but Google it. You can do that. Yeah. I have a very simple way to avoid algae in a new cycle tank. 50% water changes daily, week 1, every 2 days, week 2, every 3 days, yep, or every, yeah. Yeah, water changes definitely cut down on it. I just try not to bother. I just let the tanks run their course. It typically disappears. Is Nana Petite really sensitive to high light and temperatures around 80 degrees? 80 degrees it should be able to handle. Light, if it's too close to light, the leaves may burn, and then you should see new growth, so it's possible. Keep in mind, low light plants like low light. They can tolerate more light, but they can't tolerate sun, like full-on sun, you know. So at least like at the surface level. So you want to plant them further down in the tank, maybe not necessarily as high up or whatever. So my plants that I got from you are growing like crazy. I'm going to have to put a new aquarium up to put them in. Awesome, Angela. I'm glad to hear. It's a good problem to have. Or you could sell some of them too. I'm sure if you go on the Facebook groups and say, hey guys, I got a couple swords and some crypts or something, there you go. I've got Nana. I've had Nana get too much light. It didn't die, just didn't grow. Shadowed under some ferns or swords and grows really well now. Yeah. Also does plant ferts daily, so regular water changes are essential. Yeah, I try and do minimal dosing, but I do dose. What's the best liquid fertilizer for HC Cuba? What you want to do, George, is you want to take that plant out of your tank, you want to take it outside, and you want to cock a shotgun and shoot it. Or burn it with fire. Now, HC Cuba is, Dwarf Baby Tears, right? Yeah, I'm thinking of the right plant. Dwarf Baby Tears is a really difficult plant to grow in general. It does require CO2. It is, nutrients isn't going to make a difference. If you're trying to, if you have it in a low-tech tank with no CO2 and you're like, oh, well, I'll just add fertilizer, not going to work. It needs CO2. Fertilizing every week or so is going to definitely help. But yeah. Buttermilk yogurt for moss slurry. There you go. Flat Earth friends, what's up, man? I have a question. If water takes the shape of its container with a flat level surface, how can the Earth be a sphere? I don't know. You got me there. Maybe the world is actually flat. Let's see. I just got a 37 watt LED from Aquanormians or something one. It's okay for plants, seems to grow, but just not as fast as the T5 fluorescent. Yeah, every light is different. Do you think the nicer Night Crew Deluxe is too strong for a 20 long compared to the regular Night Crew? I haven't used the Deluxe that I know of. I've only had the regular, so as long as you can either put it on dimmer or dim it, should be fine. Because it's LED, it's most likely being... So if it's LED, you could buy an adapter that allows you to dim it through the electrical outlet. So it's literally like an extension cord with a dimmer attached to it. I use it for the tank in the living room that has the 60-watt LED floodlight on it. And I can dim it that way. So that's a possibility. Okay. My nose is itchy. Why is my nose itchy? It's always itchy. God, you guys have tons of questions. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to them all. Scott Savage says, "Hey buddy, I ordered some anacrus basically from you a couple months ago. They have more than quadrupled in size since then. Thanks again. You're very welcome, Scott. Thank you for shopping at our store." Do you think driftwood will control green algae that grows on glass? No, not necessarily. I mean, it's going to grow all over the wood too. Any wood attracts algae. Yep, because it has organics in it. Algae, especially like blackbeard algae, loves organics. Anyone ever had monos with angelfish, or is it a bad idea? You could definitely get away with it so long as the monos are bigger than the angelfish's mouth. Don't get really tiny baby monos. Zombie says, I'm about to try 2 170-watt metal halide pendants. I got free over a 65 gallon with a massive plant jungle riparium. That's gonna be sick. Also, pray for your electric bill. Have you ever seen a red crypt spiralis or a dark bronze crypt maybe? I mean, I don't know. I've seen red crypt spiralis, yes, and I've seen a bronze crypt. I don't know about dark bronze crypt. I don't know if that's a different variation. Does old driftwood raise nitrates? I already touched on that. Pretty much yes. Yeah, dang zombie Death Stalker, that's gonna be crazy. Why do I have no algebra in some tasks, or algae in some tanks, and algae in others? They get minimum feeding and high water changes. It's just, it could be anything. It could be ambient light that's causing it. It could be if you have different lights, different substrates, different water chemistry. Sebastian says, love to see you alive again. I'm glad, mate, because I don't know if you could help me. Do you recommend PBS Pro dosing with Amazonian substrate? Yep. If you say yes, how long should I wait to dose a new tank with the substrate? It depends on the plants. If you have a ton of plants in there and it's fully planted, start dosing right away. If it's like scarcely planted and you could see a ton of substrate, I would wait maybe a month or two before plants fill in. Keep in mind, more plants you have, the more fertilizer you have to dose. So even if you start out at, let's just say you have one of my fertilizers, the Vitals, right? And you do 1 pump, and that seems to be enough. Well, as your tank fills in and becomes more of a jungle, you're going to have to keep adding additional pumps because now you have more plant mass to maintain nutrients for. So we're 10 minutes over. We got to get through the rest of these fast. Adams Aquatic says, I'd love a sub back. I'm just making videos and working on getting a better camera. I plan to do some plant videos and DIY videos. I think I only have 5 subs at the moment. Adam, I'll take a look, but hopefully you have some content. Usually what I recommend to people, if you want to grow your audience, just produce content and people will find you. I don't have a tremendously successful YouTube channel. I mean, we're at, I think, close to 12,000 subscribers now, so that's awesome, and I appreciate you guys, but it really just comes down to making content. It hits so hard that, like, that biggest tip video I made, the biggest tip for planted aquariums, I wasn't even going to upload that video because I thought it was shit, and it's one of the best videos on my channel right now, and I was like, how is this even, I was literally contemplating posting that video. I was like, this video is garbage, like, nobody's going to watch this, they're not going to find it helpful, and one of my best viewed videos. I think it's ranked number 2 under a video that I posted 2 years ago. So, you know, that just goes to show you, its content is key. And I think we gained 1,100 subscribers off that one video. It's crazy. What do you clean the outside of your tank with? What products, if any? I don't really use anything. I use a microfiber cloth, a little tank water, and just wipe it down. I use white vinegar. Yeah, you could use white vinegar, whatever. From Woodridge, New Jersey, you stated you haven't changed water in a while for a few tanks. Do those tanks have fish in it as well? If no, would you change more frequently? Yeah, I mean, we have our Blue Bolt tank, although we use RO water for, as I haven't done a water change in at least 3 months, maybe longer. I don't remember if Jake's done a water change. But I did, I mean, it's using RO water. I top it off, but I literally haven't done anything to it. The Shell Dweller tank, we don't typically do a water change for it. We do maybe once every month and a half. We just top off. And the Grow tanks, for the most part, get a water change maybe every 3 weeks or so. The 55 hasn't gotten a water change in a while. It's probably been like 3 months as well in that. And they've gone longer. Like, I literally don't keep track of it. It's like, oh, you know what? Maybe we should do a water change, or not really. So that's kind of what we do. But always go off the fish. Obviously, like more sensitive fish like discus, I would say change water more frequently. I have hard-to-ear species typically, like they can tolerate stuff, so. You will never answer everyone's questions. I think I just did. Adams Aquatics. The worst thing you could do is advertise. Don't advertise like that. Just, you know, answer people's questions. Make content. I'm telling you, that's the best way to get people. If you tell people, hey, come check out my channel, they're gonna come check it out. They're gonna see maybe you made 1 or 2 videos. They're gonna be like, okay, this guy has like a dead channel. I'm gonna leave, and that's just what's gonna happen. Oh, my uncle's calling me, and this is having to do with the thing. So I'm going to answer these last 2 questions, and then I'm going to have to go. Okay. Also, folks, the more heavily you plant in the start, the less a chance of algae. Yes, plant more in the beginning, less algae you'll have to deal with. With you owning your own aquatic plant business, when you get shipments in, do you just pick from those, and do you make special orders for just your tanks? Yep. That's the perk of having your own plant business. Philly Man Pete says, dude, nice meeting you and the team at Reefapalooza. I bought one of those Asta lights from Amazon, great value, but the dimmer only partially works. I mean, I just keep them on full blast. I don't think they need to be dimmed, really. Your channel may be small in today's YouTube, but when it comes to plants, you are the go-to YouTuber without a doubt. Also, maybe more Twitch. I've been thinking about doing more Twitch, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, guys, I got to go take care of the phone call. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said in the beginning or earlier on, sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. It's definitely going to get better, and you'll get weekly things with cool coupons and demonstrating products and plants and all that. So if you want more information, follow us there, as well as Instagram and Facebook. We're going to be posting daily. Well, we do post daily. There, we just actually hit 30,000 followers on Instagram, so that's pretty sweet. And we're probably going to be doing a giveaway soon. So that may be even more of a reason. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I gotta run. I will see you in 2 weeks. Well, a week from now. Well, yeah, not next week. The following week. You know, every 2 weeks we do these live streams. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, and love everybody you can while you can. That's the moral of today's incident. I'll see you guys later.